Gonna quickly go through Dan Holly's film The Underpass. My role on that film was sound recording. There was only me sound recording, there was no boom operator, which caused a bit of a difficulty as I had to hold the zoom in one hand and be able to boom operate with the other. The first one was a night shoot, something I'd never done, shot at night, so it was quite interesting and quite learning, especially when to see everyone set up. However, the sound obviously was still set up the same. We were shooting in Bottle Alley. It's a seafront in Hastings, and it's like the underpass by the pier. And one of the problems I had was it was a bit of a wind trap. The wind from the sea was hitting off the wall, and it was bouncing back. It was causing a slight echo on the microphone. However, with the softy on and the fluffy, it didn't sound too bad. So it was, you could deal with it. It wasn't too echoey in the end. Another problem I had with the actors' voices, there was 3 actors to start off with, and the 4th one came along after. And one of the actors had a really loud, deep voice, which was fine. He fitted in with my levels on my Zoom. But the other actor who was being beaten up, who was filmed as Ron in the film, he had a really quiet, high-pitched voice, and it seemed to be a problem to try and pick him up. I had to keep saying to the Ron actor, you need to be a little bit louder for me. I can't pick you up no matter how high I have my levels. I'm not going to be able to pick you up, and if I had them too high, I was picking up too much of the male actor who was really loud. And then there was another guy called Alex who was an actor. He had the middle bit, so I could still pick him up. He wasn't as loud, but it worked because the one character was more dominant than Alex. He was in charge, so the sound-wise, it worked really well on that. The problem as well we had was there was a lot of traffic going over us above. I think 3 or 4 police cars went by, which caused a bit of a problem because we had to stop. And then there was people walking past on the underpass, and we had to stop again. There's a woman that walked along the beach, and I could pick her up walking her dog, and because of the footsteps on the pebbles, and it took about 5-10 minutes until she was out of my listening ears on the Zoom, which obviously made us wait around a little bit longer. We started shooting at about 8 o'clock, I think it was, and we got back at about roughly 11:30, so it went really well for what we did. All the night scenes were done. Which brings me on to the next day, where we had to be downstairs for 8 o'clock, because I live in the same building as Dan, so I was the lucky one. We first of all had to get back to the underpass for the morning scene. Again, I suffered the same problems as I did the night before. There was a lot of people, there was more people this time walking past, shouting comments and stuff, which caused a bit of a problem. However, we made sure we were quick so we could get back to the house, because the longer we were there, the more attention we were getting to ourselves, bringing to ourselves. When we were in the flat doing the main scene, I had a problem that, as it was being a film noir and shadows were important, the shadow of the boom kept getting in shot. No matter where I put it, it was going to be in shot, because they were multi-camming as well, like I was doing with Jason and Jake, so it caused a bit of a problem of to where I could stand. There's a lot of time I had to have the beam underneath the table, underneath them, so going under, rather than being able to go over to keep out of shot. There was a couple of times where I'd have to be a bit too out, so they were a lot quieter, which means the sound designer for Dan's film would have to bring their levels up. We were going to mic them with radio mics, however, it wasn't too bad with the boom, so we left it without the radio mics, as they would have been in shot and you would have seen them. Another problem I had, there was a scene where the female actor Eve walks from the bathroom into the living room, and I had to be behind the camera, so I had to move as quick as the camera moved, but we both had to be quiet, and we both ended up having to take our shoes off so we didn't pick up the sound, which was a bit of a funny one. The third day filming, we were behind the back of an alley near where we live, and the sound was fine. Like, there wasn't any problems to what I could hear, and none of the problems came up during the post-production that Dan said. The only problems we had was there was a point where two people were walking by and they took a while to get in the house, and also because we were shouting there was people watching out the windows that we were filming, so it was important for me to listen that they weren't being picked up on the sound, but luckily there wasn't, so they were no harm like watching. Working with Dan was really good. He made a really good director. I know he was really nervous prior to it, as he's never directed before, but he did really well, and I'd happily work for him if he was a director again. All the crew was lovely. We had a good laugh on set, which was nice, and I'd happily work with any of those again. So yeah, that was my experience on the Underpass.